What is good, YouTube? It's your boy OG Nonboy back with another video, and in today's video I have a battle submission from a subscriber of mine, Ripley320, and they're rocking a team featuring Sylveon, Walrein, and the featured Pokemon of Shiny ABSOL. So Shiny ABSOL, pretty spicy pick and also very hard to use in the Open Ultra League just because it is ranked 500 on PvPoke. So really excited to get into these battles here, and Ripley did submit to me a variety of battles, but I kind of just pick and chose a few battles that I found interesting. So without further ado, let's get into these battles here. So first match, we do see a Giratina altered lead instead of the Sylveon, but for the rest of the battles, I believe it is the Sylveon in the lead instead of the Giratina altered. But in this particular matchup, Giratina altered versus Registeel, it's pretty much completely luck dependent. It's a coin toss, as if you look on PvPoke, in all the even shielding scenarios, the Pokemon that wins by like 6 or 7 HP up to like 11 or something like that. So very thin margins, and as we do know, the Registeel can debuff the opposing Giratina's attacks with the Zap Cannon, and also most people do run pretty suboptimal IVs, just because these Pokemon are typically found in raids, and to get good PvP IVs you do have to trade them with other people, and that's pretty hard to do, especially with legendaries only being able to trade one a day. And also, if you're friends with somebody, your friendship level's going to probably be quite high, which means the IV floor for your attack is going to be pretty high as well. So the Giratina is going to be able to get off one more Shadow Sneak here, but this is not going to KO the Registeel, so I'm going to swap into the Walrein just to not get farmed down. But I probably would have let the Giratina go down just because you are pretty like close to being knocked out, and I don't know, maybe having your switch timer up would be beneficial, but actually no, I think that's bad anyways. It's probably better to just swap because you're not going to have the alignment you want anyways. Like, even if you bring in the like Walrein after getting farmed down, then they're just going to bring down in their Swampert like they did here, get the alignment that they want. So I like keeping the Giratina for a potential sack swap in the future, but gonna let the Earthquake go, which kind of hurts a bit, and the opposing Swampert is just gonna go for a Hydro Cannon to almost take out the Walrein, but thankfully Ripley does grab one more shield before going down, and going to attempt a catch there, but instead the opponent's going to bring in the Pidgeot. But here there's a pretty decent matchup since the ABSOL does know Thunder, and we're going to see how much this does. Like, I'm pretty curious myself, and that is pretty close to taking them out. So going to no shield this, which is a savage call here, and they definitely needed to make that call in order to win this game here, as they will have to shield this Hydro Cannon here. So really heads up play, knowing their win con. Like, they can't shield that regardless, because even if it is a Brave Bird, like, they just lose, right? And they shield it properly, then they're gonna get hit by the Hydro Cannon and get taken out. So this game really came down to the wire, and was very exciting. So absolute sweeping those 3 Pokemon in the end game there. And then next match we have the Sylveon into Dragonite, so this is a pretty favorable lead, and opponent staying in here, which means that they're likely ABA weak to the Sylveon. So Dragonite gonna throw a move, definitely not gonna shield this just because it's not gonna do any sort of damage here, and gonna overfarm just a tiny bit and then throw off this Dazzling Gleam. No need to bait since this matchup is so dominant, and they're gonna bring in the Venusaur. So here I'd actually likely switch out just because, like I mentioned before, they are ABA weak to the Sylveon, so it might be prudent to preserve it. But this is not a bad play either, just because Sylveon was able to grab a shield there from the Venusaur, and now you kind of guarantee that your Walrein gets to be on the Venusaur with a shield advantage. So it's a pretty favorable position to be in. And the opponent's going to throw the Frenzy Plant, and overfarming a little bit here, which is a slight misplay just because you could have threatened the shield or taken them out before having to shield yourself. And the opponent's now going to bring in a Umbreon, so I would probably bring in my Absol like immediately in this situation, just because you do resist the snarls and whatnot from the Umbreon here, and then on top of that, like you're gonna be able to save the Icicle Spears for the Venusaur when it comes back in. But looks like Ripley is staying capped on energy just in case the Venusaur does come back in, so gonna be able to throw an Icicle Spear um, in that case. But I guess I misspoke a little bit, or spoke too soon rather, since he did throw that one right away. But pretty interesting way to play this out. So gonna have to eat a Psychic there, and especially since this Umbreon knows Psychic instead of the Last Resort, the Absol would have had a pretty favorable matchup against the Umbreon. But looks like it worked out either way, as the energy advantage on the Walrein did come quite in handy. So looks like opponent quit out here. Little rage quit action, but that's what happens sometimes. But very good game nonetheless. So next match, Sylveon into Giratina. So again, another positive lead. They're going to bring in the Swampert. Looks like attempting to catch a Hydro Cannon, but opponent continuing to farm. So hopefully this is just the Hydro Cannon, but ends up being the Earthquake. So that does a lot of damage. And from this point out, or this point on rather, gonna be pretty tricky to flip switch here. So they kind of have to call this Hydro Cannon, and they are able to successfully do that. So they're gonna be able to put the Swampert pretty low here with this Icicle Spear if the opponent decides not to shield. So looks like lagging quite a bit here and missing out on some fast moves. So they actually would have been able to get to that Icicle Spear there. So that's pretty devastating of an outcome. But for some reason, the opponent decides to switch into their Machamp and gonna go for the Psyshock here. Definitely, like I probably would have gone for the Moonblast in that position, just because you are so far ahead on energy and you have a good matchup against the Machamp, that in the case that they don't shield, like in that scenario, you would have been able to take them out with one move. But still in a pretty good position, as they are able to hold on to both of their shields and take out this Machamp. So the Swampert's going to come back in, and it looks like he's just going to trust in the Absol in the back to sweep this game. So looks like in some of these battles too, the Absol's not running the Snarl and is running the Psycho Cut instead. But gonna attempt to farm down this Swampert here. I'm gonna double shield, and now we'll see what's in the back. And it ends up being a Giratina, so this is a pretty commanding position. Just gonna spam off these Dark Pulses, and this should basically be GG, as you can see how much the Dark Pulse does there. A little bit of lag, and then able to get this next Dark Pulse off to secure this match here. So just have to farm down the Swampert, and that is a GG. So next match, we do have the Sylveon into Mewtwo. So this isn't a terrible lead for the Sylveon, but I don't believe that it is winning either. But I actually don't know the Sims. I'm no Ultra League expert, nor do I really use the Quick Attack Sylveon. So Armored Mewtwo is also not a terribly common pick in this meta either. Like I haven't seen it too much in the very little time that I do spend in the Open Ultra League. So I do believe it does know Dynamic Punch though, so pretty interesting that they're bringing in the Walrein here. They also do know Rock Slide, which also does super effective damage. So pretty interesting swap in there. Gonna get the next Icicle Spear off, and opponent gonna bring in the Togekiss, which also is a pretty interesting play, just because you are taking super effective damage from the Powder Snows and the Icicle Spears, which they're gonna shield up. And gonna bring in the Sylveon here, since they are loaded up on energy, and the Absol would be taking super effective damage from the Charms. So gonna let this move go through, and then Psycho Cut down the Togekiss here. So now again we see ourselves in a 2-shield situation with the Absol. Gonna get this move off right away so they don't have to shield or tank a move. And then we see a Giratina in the back. So definitely gonna be able to take this game here. Opponent conceding the match. So this is the final match in this showcase. So we have the Nidoqueen into Sylveon, gonna make an instant swap into the hard counter of the Walrein. And opponent staying in here, which is pretty favorable, gonna get the Icicle Spear off before they're able to get any moves off. And Nidoqueen now having to do 6 poison jabs to get to a Poison Fang. And then gonna bring the Talonflame in. So this is actually not a terrible matchup just because you do have the water typing on the Walrein. So you're only gonna be taking neutral damage from the Incinerates, the Flame Charges, and these Icicle Spears, you're able to throw them on pretty good timing here. So gonna let this go, able to survive that, so might be able to make it to another Icicle Spear here. So this is either gonna take out the Talonflame or threaten the final shield. So opponent has a lot of energy, understandable that they want to shield that to get it off. And this definitely forces a shield on Ripley's side just because you don't want to eat a Brave Bird here. So Giratina coming in, and this is basically a wrap, right? Like we have 2 Pokemon that hard counter this Giratina here. So I'm gonna go for the Ancient Power, and then pretty heads up play actually coming into the Sylveon, just because you're gonna be able to get ahead on energy and get to the Psyshock quicker against the Nidoqueen once it comes back in to counter you. So gonna be able to take out the Nidoqueen here, and then the ABSOL should be able to clean up this Giratina here. So opponent conceding, and that is the showcase of Shiny ABSOL by Ripley320. So thank you so much again for the submission, and always a pleasure to shoutcast your battles and look at your nice little spice picks there. So that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and also submit your own battles in the link in the description below, and I'll see you in the next one.